Hey folks, and welcome to Story Summary, the show where we recap the full stories of video games. Today we'll be talking about the game that stood out and caught the attention of many during Ubisoft's E3 2014 presentation, and that will be Valiant Hearts, The Great War. Before we get going, the usual disclosure. This will be a neutral retelling, as in the quality of the story will in no way be evaluated. I'll save my comments and my criticisms for a full review, which will hopefully be released shortly. Secondly, this video will go through the game's story from beginning to end, so it goes without saying that there will be quite a few spoilers. With that said, this is the story of Valiant Hearts, The Great War. The game takes place in 1914. Prince Franz Ferdinand of the Austro-Hungarian Empire has been assassinated. In response to this, the German Empire declares war on Russia. Due to previously established military alliances, France is drafted into the war to fight on Russia's side. With the mobilization underway, Germans living in France are asked to leave the country. One of these Germans is Karl. Karl is a father and husband living on a farm with his wife and his father-in-law. Like so many other able-bodied young men, Karl is drafted into the German army. A few days later, the French army send out letters of their own, calling their soldiers. One of these letters makes it into the hands of Emil, Karl's father-in-law. Emil is forced to depart, leaving his daughter and grandson alone in charge of his farm. Emil himself heads for the nearby town of Saint-Mihiel, where he will undergo basic military training. With their training completed, Emil and the other soldiers are sent to Paris, where they will receive their respective assignments. At the train station, Emil spots a lone soldier being harassed by others. He assists the soldier in getting rid of his harassers. Emil learns that this man's name is Freddy, an American soldier fighting in the French army. Freddy had a French wife, but she was killed as the war broke out. Freddy now seeks to avenge her and bring those responsible for the attack that killed her to justice. The two men shake hands and then go their respective ways. Emil's regiment is sent east to engage the 71st Division of the German army, led by a Baron von Dorf. Once there, Emil is chosen to be the standard bearer for the French troops. Their assault, however, ends in failure, and Emil is shot and wounded. A letter is sent to Emil's daughter Marie, revealing to her that he is indeed alive, but captured. A couple of weeks later, Freddy and his regiment move out to join the battle at the Marne. It's also revealed that Freddy seeks personal justice against the man responsible for the attack that killed his wife. That would be Baron von Dorf, the man in charge of the division that shot and wounded Emil, as well as the division where Karl is currently serving. Using his skills as a sapper, Freddy makes it past German firing lines and into their base, where he proceeds to tear their flag in two. The assault is a success. With the help of British troops, the French are able to push the Germans further north. As the battle lines moved towards the Belgian border, winter struck. The soldiers dug long trenches where they would huddle up, and with that, trench warfare had begun. Karl's regiment retreated north to Neuve Chapelle. This also turned out to be the camp where Emil was being held. Emil at this time was serving as Baron von Dorf's involuntary cook. On March 10th, 1915, Karl is finally able to approach his father-in-law. Karl asks if he has heard anything from Marie, his wife, and consequently Emil's daughter. Emil hands him a letter he recently received from her. It says that things are a bit uncertain, to say the least, and that Germans have started using civilians to shield themselves from the French bombings. She is alive, however, as is hers and Karl's son. Before they have a chance to talk properly, Karl is called away. Emil continues to prepare the Baron's meal. However, as he's about to serve it, the British army begin their shelling of the base. Emil tries to make it to a shelter. However, as he gets in there, the roof collapses on him. He is rescued and pulled out by a dog named Walt. Through some jolly cooperation, the two of them escape the now ruined base and make it on to a nearby battlefield. Suddenly, Walt gets tangled up in some barbed wire. Emil rushes forward and tries to free him, however he doesn't have the proper tools. On a nearby hill, a German tractor malfunctions and begins rolling down the hill towards Walt and Emil. Just as it's about to hit, we get to see what transpired only minutes ago in a nearby army camp. On the other side of the front, Freddy, along with British soldiers, was preparing to advance on the German position. The operation was a success, and Freddy was even able to seize a German artillery bunker. It was then that he heard Emil's cry for help across the field. Using the artillery cannon, Freddy destroyed the tractor before he could hit Emil and Walt. The two men reunited, with their camaraderie stronger than ever before. Freddy announces that he is going to keep chasing after the Baron, while Emil says that he has to find Carl. It would seem that they have a common goal, finding the 71st German Division. And so the two men, along with Walt, give chase. They head north and pursue the Baron to the town of Ypres. It's here that they for the first time encounter a new, deadly weapon deployed by the Germans: chlorine gas. Emil manages to find a massive machine on the ground that is seemingly pumping the gas onto the field. With Walt's help, he's able to destroy it. However, the Germans set about bombing the place with even more gas, so Freddy, Walt and Emil are forced to escape. To their surprise, they're picked up by a mysterious woman who just seems to be passing by in her car. Her name is Anna, and it appears that she too is pursuing the Baron. It appears that her father, a renowned scientist, is being held captive aboard the Baron's Zeppelin. It seemed that they were all going in the same direction. Unfortunately, whilst heading south, they were spotted by a German squadron. Anna is able to dodge most of the incoming fire, however one shell lands near the car and injures Freddy. Emil and Walt are forced to infiltrate a nearby German camp in order to find some medical supplies so that Anna can get Freddy back to full health. While sneaking through the area, they spot an unattended German cannon. Even more fortunate, there is a mansion nearby, and it appears that the Baron's Zeppelin is parked right outside of it. Emil fires at the mansion, however the Baron is able to narrowly escape along with Anna's father. He brings the medical supplies he found back to Anna and Freddy, and so they're able to give chase once again. They follow the Baron south to the city of Reims. Once there, Freddy rushes after the Zeppelin, which eventually leads him to a cathedral. Emil tries to follow him, but there are several obstacles in his path. With the help of Walt and Anna, he's able to clear them, and now he heads for the cathedral to catch up with Freddy and the Zeppelin. The two men engage the Baron in two sequential one-on-one battles. As a result, the Zeppelin is heavily damaged. Carl, who is now steering the Zeppelin, tries his best to keep it airborne, but to no avail. Despite his best efforts, the Zeppelin is still losing altitude. At this point, the game flashes back 9 months to give us some backstory on Anna. Anna was a Belgian student living in Paris. She was studying to become a veterinarian. When the war broke out, she received a letter from her father. It said that he was in good health, however he urged her not to return home until the war had ended. Anna, however, was not what you'd call a patient lady. At this point, Parisian taxis were used to transport the troops to the front lines. Anna fixed up one of the taxis, let the soldiers climb on, and off she went. The front lines, however, were unlike anything she could ever have imagined. No matter which way she looked, all she saw was death. She did, however, manage to save the life of one injured soldier. In the next 7 months, Anna would give her all to make sure that as few soldiers as possible perished at the hands of this terrible war. One day, however, she overheard a conversation between two French officers. They said that the Germans had access to a new weapon, and that they were going to try it in Belgium, more specifically near Ypres, Anna's hometown. Anna rushed home in order to warn her father of the incoming threat. However, when she got there, she realized that she was too late. The Germans had already bombed the town with chlorine gas, and the situation was dire, to say the least. While searching for her father, Anna helped all the citizens that she could. Eventually, Anna made it back to her family's house, where she also discovered her father's secret study. In there, she found the blueprints for all kinds of war machines and weapons, including the Baron's Zeppelin and the gas-pumping device that Emil and Walt destroyed. As she was leaving, Anna saw a house get struck by another gas bomb. Anna managed to save the governess who almost perished in the attack. She revealed that Anna's father had been kidnapped by none other than Baron von Dorf. The Baron was hoping to use the discoveries Anna's father had made to gain an advantage in the war. Anna set out after the Baron, and this is where she encountered Emil and Freddy. Back in the present day, the trio arrive at the crash site of the Zeppelin. They rummage through the wreckage and find an injured Carl. Anna manages to bring him back to health, however they are all captured by the French troops. Anna's father and the Baron are nowhere to be seen, and Carl, being a German soldier, is put in a prisoner camp. And on top of everything, Emil was court-martialed for desertion. Cited, however, for his bravery at Reims, Emil was set free. Freedom in this case, however, entailed going back to the front lines. On February 21st, 1916, Freddy and Emil were stationed near Verdun. That morning the mail came, and Emil received a letter from Marie. In Saint-Miel, things were not going well. They were running out of food, disease was rampant, and the death toll kept climbing. The letter didn't only bring bad news though. Attached was a photo of his grandson, Victor, learning to walk. Emil wanted to write her a reply, however he realized that it didn't have ink, paper, or anything to write with. So he scavenges the camp for the supplies he needs. He starts to write his letter to Marie, telling her that he has heard from Carl. He is still in the prisoner camp and his condition is stable. He hopes that he will be able to go visit him soon. As he's writing, however, the Germans begin bombarding the nearby area. More specifically, the area where Freddy was recently moved. On his side of the battlefield, Freddy leads as many of his fellow soldiers as possible to safety. He's then able to fire off a flare gun in order to signal to the other troops that they're in need of support. With the help of Walt, Emil is able to find and arm a nearby artillery cannon. Freddy manages to contact him via telephone, telling him where to fire it. Emil shoots and is able to destroy the German artillery. With the cannons destroyed, Freddy and his soldiers are able to reach the rear lines. The military hierarchy hears about what the two friends managed to accomplish in battle, and for that, they're decorated. Soon thereafter, Emil hears from Anna, who is stationed at the prisoner camp where Carl is being held. She says that he is recovering nicely and that he's even up walking again. On May 8th, 1916, Emil's squad is sent to take back Fort Douaumont. The fort was a key strategic point in the German defense. If it could be taken, it would give the French troops a significant advantage. Emil and Freddy are able to infiltrate the fort, and everything seems to be going smoothly. That is until Freddy runs into a familiar face, none other than Baron von Dorf. Freddy engages the Baron and his new war machines. However, he is forced to run for cover when the Baron shows up in what can only be described as a flame tank. Using said tank, the Baron is able to trap Freddy as well as Anna's father. Fortunately, Emil is able to come to their rescue. Using a stick of dynamite, he's able to make the Baron abandon his tank. Before they can escape, however, the Baron lights a fuse with the intention to destroy the local supply of dynamite. Emil manages to escape. However, Freddy and Anna's father are not so lucky. All Emil can do is watch as the fort burns to the ground with his friend inside. And despite large parts of the fort being destroyed, the Germans were able to hold it. The mission is a failure. On that very same day, Carl receives a letter from Marie. She writes that their son has fallen gravely ill. Upon hearing this, Carl makes a decision. This war will never end, and his place is by his wife's side. He needs to escape from the POW camp. A fellow prisoner informs him that there is a chain cutter nearby, but getting to it will be tricky. However, using quick-witted ingenuity as well as clever use of his surroundings, Carl is able to get to them. As darkness falls upon the camp, Carl and his fellow prisoner decide to move out. Unfortunately, they haven't gotten far before they're spotted and halted. At the same time, in the ruins of Fort Douaumont, it is revealed that Freddy is still alive. He is rescued, like Emil before him, by Walt. Soon enough, they hear the cries of help coming from Anna's father, who is apparently also still alive. They work together to restore what's left of the Baron's flame tank. They not only manage to get it operational, using the tools available at the now ruined base, they're also able to fit a cannon to it. Using this now hideously powerful weapon, they're able to break through the German siege and make it back to the French encampment. Upon their arrival, they receive a hero's welcome. Emil writes to Anna and tells her that her father is both alive and safe. However, duty calls, so this victory is short-lived. About a week later, Freddy and his regiment are sent to the Somme. Emil, on the other hand, is stationed in a nearby village called Vauquois. At this point, both French and German troops have begun digging tunnels underground, hoping to gain an advantage. Emil is stationed in these mines. His first mission is to find and rescue a fellow soldier who's been trapped at the bottom of the shaft. He eventually finds the soldier, only to see him perish before his very eyes. It's then that Emil hears another cry for help. In a nearby room, there's a German soldier hanging from the ceiling. He is in obvious distress, and Emil, despite the soldier being the enemy, decides to help him. The two cooperate to make it out of the mines. When Emil is eventually spotted by German soldiers, the soldier intervenes, telling them that Emil was the one who saved him. He then tells Emil to hurry away from there, and Emil is happy to oblige. Back at the base camp, Emil is given a new mission. This time he has to find and secure a cart filled with valuable goods. Emil manages to do so. However, had he known what was in the cart and what its intended use was, he might have thought twice about retrieving it.
Hey, Brody! Yeah! Okay, there we go! So tight! Okie dokie! Ready?
While the other French troops celebrate the mission's success, Emil refuses to join in. He is awarded 2 medals for his bravery, however, he refuses to accept them. In fact, he burns them. He considers what they did a cowardly act, and he takes absolutely no pride in having been part of it. Shortly thereafter, Anna arrives at the camp. At long last, she is finally able to embrace her father. No longer will his research be used to cause more death. She does, however, also bring devastating news. She informs Emil that Carl was killed during his escape attempt from the POW camp. Upon hearing these news, Emil is sickened with grief. The game then flashes back to show us what went down outside the prisoner camp 5 days ago. Even though they were spotted, Carl and his fellow prisoner made a run for it. The French troops gave chase, but Carl was able to avoid them. He eventually comes across an abandoned house. In there, he finds the other escaped prisoner drawing his last breath. With the French troops hot on his heel, Carl swaps his own dog tag with the deceased prisoner. They find it, and Carl is declared dead. He is now free to make his way to San Miguel. We then get to see what's currently happening with Freddy. He joins the battle at the Somme on September 15th, 1916. He has been chosen to pilot the military's newest weapon, one of the first incarnations of the modern battle tank. It appears though that Baron von Dorf is about to take the field as well, in his own personal tank. Freddy, alongside the British soldiers, engage the German troops. Eventually, he comes face to face with Baron von Dorf. The two tanks ram each other and are both destroyed. Freddy and the Baron leave their cockpits to engage in good old fisticuffs. Fueled by his hunger for vengeance, Freddy is able to knock the Baron out. Having failed yet again, the Baron is demoted and sent away from the front lines. To him, this is a fate worse than death. In January the following year, Emil, still bedridden, sends Anna to San Miguel to inform Marie of Carl's fate. Carl, meanwhile, is still heading for San Miguel on foot, despite the harsh winter. Soon enough though, exhaustion as well as the winter's chill get to him as he collapses in the snow. Just as he's about to give up though, a villager takes him in. She gives him food and drink as well as a fire to rest by. The French troops are still pursuing him, however, so Carl is forced to escape. He finds a change of clothing and is finally able to get out of his dirty prison uniform. This also allows him to sneak off from the French troops without getting captured. Just as he is about to leave the village, however, he runs into some old friends, Walt and Anna. As luck would have it, their paths have crossed. Anna is now able to give Carl a ride towards San Miguel. However, with only 20 miles to go, the car breaks down. Luckily enough, Carl is able to acquire a French uniform. With that, he's able to steal the tools they need to repair the car. The French, however, discover what has happened and decides to send an entire battalion after them. Through some tricky maneuvering, as well as a very liberal use of dynamite, Carl and Anna are eventually able to shake them. Just outside of San Miguel though, they're intercepted by the German troops still occupying the city. Carl is redrafted into the army, and Anna is sent to the infirmary to care for the wounded. Come the spring, Carl is finally fit enough to return to service. At the German military base, he runs into someone he was not expecting, Walt's original owner. He informs Carl where he can find a German uniform as well as some gear. Right about the time Carl finds them, the French begin an assault on the city. Carl realizes that this is probably his only chance to reach Emil's farm, so he decides to leg it. Whilst fleeing, Walt's owner is killed. Hence, Walt decides to go with Carl. They escape the city and make it on to a nearby battlefield. From here, they make a beeline for Emil's farm. On the very same day, April 9th, 1917, Freddy joined the Canadian troops as they mount an assault on Vimy Ridge. The battle is long and bloody. However, through the combined efforts of the Canadians, Freddy, as well as the British Royal Air Force, they are finally able to reclaim the hill. Following this victory, Freddy receives a letter from his younger brother saying that the United States are now eager to join the battle. At the same time, Carl finally makes it back to Emil's farm. To his horror, he realizes that the farm has been shelled with chlorine gas. Carl hears Marie's distant cries and hurries to find her. Eventually, he manages to find her and Victor, however he sees that Marie is not wearing a gas mask. Desperately trying to save her, Carl removes his own mask and places it on Marie's face. He then tries to drag her out from the gas-filled bar. Just as he manages to reach the door, however, he succumbs to the gas and collapses. Elsewhere, Emile, still sick, is once again about to be sent into battle. The French army is about to launch an attack on Nivelles. They claim, not for the first time, that this is the battle that will indeed end the war. Emile is told to gather up a squad and move out. What they're sent into, however, can only be described as a bloodbath. Everyone is getting slaughtered left and right, including Emile's own squad. They continue to push on, however the scene becomes grimmer and grimmer with every step they take. It doesn't take long until they have to use bodies in order to find cover from the machine gun fire. Still they push on, until Emile is knocked out by a shell hitting the ground near him. When it comes to, he sees that the officers are still pushing the soldiers forward despite the massacre at hand. Emile decides that enough really is enough. He grabs his shovel and walks up behind the officer barking the orders.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
While it wasn't Emil's intention, the blow is fatal. Following the slaughter, mutiny begins spreading in the French ranks. Emil is imprisoned with the other mutineers, awaiting to be court-martialed. Back in Saint Mihiel, Walt is able to find Anna and eventually guide her to Carl and his family. Luckily, both Victor and Marie appear to be fine, given the circumstances. Carl, however, is grievously injured. Anna manages to temporarily stabilize him before rushing him off to a hospital. Once there, she scavenges the hospital in order to find the tools she needs to save Carl's life. She is successful, and sometime later, Carl wakes up, being greeted by the sight of his son's smiling face. Finally, after 3 years of war, death and disease, their family is reunited. Several weeks later, having not heard any news of Emil, Marie receives a letter from her father.
Aimé Chaillon. C'est l'heure.
Dearest Marie, as the war ends for me, I have no regrets. I've seen too much horror. I hope fate has been more merciful to you. Our time on Earth is brief, and mine has been filled with so much joy that I can only be thankful for how much I've been blessed, most especially for the wonder you brought into my life. This letter is my last. I've been found guilty by a military court for the death of an officer. It was not my intention to kill him. War makes men mad. Though I failed Carl, I know my sacrifice has not been in vain. I fought for my country and my liberty. My honor is assured. Since it is the will of God to separate us on earth, I hope we'll meet again in heaven. Keep me in your prayers. Your loving Papa. Always.
Even though their bodies have long since returned to dust, their sacrifice still lives on. We must strive to cherish their memory and never forget.
Thank you ever so much for watching this story summary of Valiant Hearts. I really hope you enjoyed it. Also, a quick apology for the lack of videos lately. Things have been a bit, volatile, should we say, lately, and I really haven't had that much time to work on videos. However, I'm doing what I can to incorporate the videos as part of my daily routine, so hopefully I should be able to pick up the pace pretty soon. Your patience is greatly appreciated. If you want to know what I'm up to and how the next video is coming along, then you can always follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Also, if you enjoy the video, then you're always welcome to leave a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more like it, then you can always subscribe. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Take care, and I hope to catch you later.